we're just going to jump right into this. So the first thing I wanted to do is talk a little bit about what I see when I look at the Biopulsar screen, and we have the chakra format up, the aura format up, and the organ biofeedback graphs. I'm going to kind of be going back and forth to all three, even though you might not have all of the programs. Don't worry about it, because I'm going to teach you how, when I look at the chakras, I already know what I'm seeing in the aura in regards to colors and blockages, and likewise I can correlate that to the organ graphs. So we're going to start with the chakras, just because that's sort of the easiest thing to talk about initially. So here I brought up somebody that I know, and I thought they were a good representation because they do have an autoimmune disorder. And so therefore, you know, this gives me some ammunition to kind of correlate the data with you guys. She has been recently diagnosed with lupus. And so therefore, again, you know, she's facing some struggles, but there can be some reasons on that psychological level as to why this is happening, you know, to this individual. And so we're going to try to just build a picture of what's going on with this person on a holistic level. So the first thing we notice here is that the crown chakra is 88, the brow 82, the throat 60, the heart 60, the solar plexus 66, the sexual 52, and the root chakra is at 29. Now, one of the ways I look at the chakras is exactly in regards to the percentages and how they work with each other. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if I take 88, which is the highest chakra, and minus for the 29, we're getting 59 point difference. Is that right? No, 49.49. 59, yeah, I was right the first time. 59 point difference. That's huge, because when we're looking at the root being 29 and the highest being 888, that spread is quite large. When I see between 20, that tells me that that's a fairly decent balance between the highest and the lowest. But when we go beyond 20, that's more of a disconnect between the highest and the lowest. And the root chakra has a lot to do with one's physical body of repair, meaning that every chakra has its governing aspect. And for those of you who have attended my class, I'm going to repeat some stuff, but those of you who are new, this could be new information for you. But if we look at the chakras from the base to the crown, the root chakra is our physical vitality. The sexual chakra is our physical, emotional energy. The solar plexus is our mental physical energy. And then when we get to the heart is the bridge between the realms of the physical reality and the, you know, the more spiritual reality. So when we get to the throat, the brow, and the crown, those are less physical. And in fact, by the time we get to the crown, that's even more less physical than, say, for example, the throat chakra. Okay, does that make sense? Thumbs up? Okay, good. So when we look at this individual, because their root chakra is at 29, they don't put a lot of emphasis on their physical vitality. Now, if we look at the average person nowadays, we actually understand that, you know, obesity is on the rise. You know, a lot more people are having physical symptoms, and we can talk about some of the major things that impact our health. One, the food that we eat, you know, two, the water that we drink, you know, three, you know, we're looking at the amount of sleep that we get. You know, what other things are on the physical level? Of course, that with food, we're talking about nutrition, the amount of exercise we get, our attitude in general. So there's so many factors that are influencing our different chakras. But on the root chakra level, it has everything to do with our sleep, our food, you know, you know, our environment. That's what affects our physical body. And it is one of our main chakras for, well, it is our main chakra for the physical reality. So we have to, you know, keep that in mind. Versus the crown and the brow, of course, are a lot higher chakras and less connected to the physical. Now, they all have that physical connection, but what I'm referring to more so is the responsibility of every chakra. So the root chakra has a lot to do with one's physicality. So we can see that this person is more living in their top chakras versus their root. And another thing too that I always like to explain, you are 100% whole the way you are, meaning nobody can steal your energy and you can't give your energy away, but how you redirect your energy is totally up to you. So when the root chakra is weak, that means that another chakra is going to be heightened, but it can be that way with any chakra. So for example, if the heart were weak, another chakra would still be strong. So we're always looking at that balance of all the chakras and trying to be within that 20-point spread, ideally even between that 10-point spread if we can get it. And one of the things is the closer your spread is, the more you're going to feel in harmony, and you're going to see more turquoises in the aura. So now if we start looking at the aura, and I've just got to move this over. Now when we start looking at the aura, we're not really seeing any turquoise. So there's not that balance representing in the chakras. Now, because we know the crown and the brow are very high, right away we can see that above the head, literally from the ears up, we're seeing that all the color frequencies are on the higher level. And we look at it in the form of Roy G. Biv. So red, orange, yellow are, the lower energies, and then green being in the middle, and then we have the blue, indigo, and violet being the higher chakra colors. And beyond violet, we have magenta, then it turns to pink, and then eventually white. So as we can see, we have a lot of white in the head region, combined with some of this violet, and as well, this darker color isn't blue. This is more towards an indigo color, although indigo can be a little bit darker in hue. This color here is more or less the blue. Okay, can you guys see that? Okay, perfect. And I'm just going to use, there's a little button here that I can use. So, spotlight. Okay, we're going to try that, see if that helps with. So in this area here, we can see all the white, and then this area is what I'm referring to as the indigo blue, and in the background here along is that violet color. Okay. Now, a couple other things that I always look at is the connection between colors that I see in the brain versus the colors of the body. So when we look at these colors, we can see it is primarily of the spiritual nature, but when we look at the more physical colors, excuse my drawing here, then we can see that there's more of the lower frequency colors, the yellows, the oranges, and we even have some dark and dirty red in this area. Now, one of the things I also want to show you is some shortcut features, but you'll know here, oops, I have to take that off. Yeah. So when we look below here, we can see that all the colors are listed of every organ and gland, but likewise, I can click on a color and, hold on 1 second here. So we can click on a color and it'll show up. And sorry, I was wondering what that buzzing was, and it's my Biopulsar program in my ear because I'm on speakerphone. Silly me. But when you click on a color, it will highlight what organ that is. So we can see that the red is the urethra, which is connected to the water organs, which is also part of the immune system. So it's a little bit of a darker color, which is telling me that there's toxicity in that organ. And that's how we look at the toxic colors, is how do they represent themselves in the clarity of the color. So when we look at the colors above the head, that indigo blue, and the violet, that's really clear. Even the green is nice, the blue is nice, but we can see that the yellow, the oranges, and even this color, which is a mix of yellow and orange, as well as the red, are all sort of in a distorted hue. So that's telling you that there's more beyond just the physicality of depression or lack of vitality, but there's toxicity that's involved with that. And as we start going towards, looking at the organs, then we'll be able to see, what is going on more so in the picture. And with the organ biofeedback graphs, this green diagnostic line here is the reference point for the optimal energy. When we see deviations in the red measuring line above or slightly below it, it's still within the normal range. And I look at the color values in the normal range are going to be your green, your turquoise, and your light blue color, versus on the graphs, you're going to see it around that green measuring line. And also we have one other feature, and that is actually opening up our Excel program, and it's this button right here that I hit, and it will open up the numerical value of every organ and gland, that's being measured on the biopulsar. So now we can see the number values. So if we to the cerebellum, we see 6.9. And if you recall, I said the numbers between 5 and 7 are within the normal range. So the cerebellum is in the normal range. Now, if we look at the red measuring line that's on the screen here with the graphs, we can see that the red measuring line is just slightly above the green line. And if we look at the picture or each block here, we can see that there's slight little black strokes on the side. This area right here represents 2, this represents 4. The green harmony line is that 6 to 6.5 range, and then the stroke right here is 8, and then on the top is 10. It's a little hard to see on that one. Maybe I should have referred to the first one, but you can see a little black stroke just coming out on the side here. That would be the number value 8. Now, because it's between the green line and that black little stroke, it would be around that 7-digit number. Okay, and in the color language, then we're starting to look at that blue color. So I'm just going to close this window, and if we click on the organs that are in the head, we can see that the cerebellum is in that turquoise blue kind of hue, but more towards blue than turquoise. True turquoise is 50%. Hang on here. True turquoise is 50% blue and 50% green. So you'll notice that we're not really seeing any green in this blue. There might be a slight hint, but it's still more on the blue side, versus this absolutely is green. Does that make sense? Thumbs up if it makes sense. Okay, great. So when I'm doing a holistic reading, I'm looking at a lot of different factors. And again, if I don't have the graphs up, or you don't have the graph software, you still have all this information with the number values as well as the color values. And that's one of the things that you have to get familiar with, is when you see a number value that's 7, you're going to know it's blue. When you see it 8, you've got to know it's indigo. If you see it at 9, you know it's violet. If you see it white, it's going to be hovering around that 9.5 to 10 point value here. So again, if we look at the temporal brain, we can see that it's at 9.96. Similarly, we're going to see the color of the temporal brain here is in the white hue. Okay. Similarly, when we see gray, your number value is going to be hovering around 0.5, 0.3, 0.2. It's going to be on the lower end. And then, of course, as we start getting up in value, it goes from red being around that 1 to 2 range, and then orange being around that 2 to 3 range, yellow being around that 3 to 4 range, and then green being around that 4 to 5 range. So at the most, I want to see greens as well as turquoises and blues in the aura. Now, there's a couple things that we can differentiate from. The brain can house a lot of energy. It's sort of like the more thoughts and energy you have in the brain, then the more full your brain is, but your brain is very active, versus when you see grays and blues, grays and reds in the brain, then you know that that brain is operating at a lower frequency. But we can characterize the color attachment to that to get a further indication of what that means in the aura. Okay, so for example, we're seeing a lot of high energy in the brain here, and that's going to be reflective of the whites, the violets, and the blues. There's not really any lower frequency colors that we're seeing in the brain. So this is somebody who operates their brain at a very fast frequency. In a way, I look at it as somebody who can hold thoughts, hold a lot of thoughts, but those thoughts are going to be just moments in time, versus somebody who's got, you know, a lower frequency in the brain. They're going to be a lot more concentrated on the information. Does that make sense? I'm not seeing any thumbs. Okay. Good. Thank you. I only see a few of you on my screen here, so because my screen isn't a big screen, so I'm looking at the same people with their thumbs up. So you've got to help me out here, so I know you're hearing me and that it's making sense. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. So when I'm looking at the number values, often I just quickly go through there to see what numbers are below 1. That's the first thing I'm always going to look at, because anything that is below 1 needs my immediate attention. Okay, hyperactivity doesn't mean as much to me as hypoactivity. And if we look at it in regards to sort of the transition of things, when an organ goes into hyperactivity, and again, that would be any number value above 7, or if you have the graphs, it's starting to go, you know, above where we see the forehead brain and higher. So that would be the hyperactivity. The temporal brain, the back brain, these are really good examples of extreme hyperactivity. So that literally means that, you know, the back of the brain or the temporal brain are working at the fastest frequency that they possibly can work. So this person, you know, obviously derives information from the past because it's the back of the brain. The midbrain, it has more to do with the present, and the forehead brain has more to do with the future. And if we think of some of those cognitive abilities, you know, when we're looking and planning for the future, then we're looking at the areas of the brain like the forehead, like the you know, the forehead and the forehead brain aspect, versus the back of the head. We're looking at the back of the head and the cerebellum. The cerebellum is also considered the old brain, and the old brain stores a lot of past information. But the back of the brain area houses a lot of our past memories. The forehead is how we process, how we think, how we plan, how we organize. And the midbrain is reflective of what's going on more at this moment in time, how we're dealing with things at this moment in time. So if we do brain analysis, then we can understand, you know, aspects of that. Now, I'm just going to go through actually some of the organs, and we can point out some things like the hypophysa and the pineal gland. So in regards to the hypophysa, that's your pineal gland or your pituitary gland, and your pineal gland. These are two glands that are very, very close together in the brain. Literally, they're next door neighbors, and they're very, very tiny, and they tend to shrink as we get older. But these two organs have to be measured together because the reflex zones on the hand aren't big enough for us to take it as two separate readings. However, if we look at the function of those glands, the pituitary gland is a master gland, and it kind of, you know, helps the other glands in regards to distributing energy. But the pineal gland has a lot to do with our sleep. So when I see it active like that, there's two things we can surmise. One is that the person has a lot of dream activity. As well, it can reflect that they're not sleeping properly because they're not going into a normal sleep mode. Okay, and so therefore, when we're looking at that pineal gland, this is indicating a person's sleep habit. Now, when people sleep with animals, pets, that can be disruptive, or if you snore or your partner snores, or and I should say anybody that you're doing a reading for, you know, these are some of the questions that you can ask them. If there's somebody, you know, in their bedroom that's snoring, including themselves, that you know, that can affect somebody's sleep pattern. So, you know, we have to look at all these factors. Also, I'm doing a lot of research. My brother my brother bought this gadget for several $100s that measures the EMF frequencies in an area. And when I actually took it into my bedroom, there was a wall that was emitting EMF, yet the wall was to the outside world. So I was quite fascinated that that must be in the direction of like a cell tower or something else that's emitting a lot of EMFs. As well, the wall that was facing the living room that has all our, like our modem and, you know, obviously our TV and some of our other electrical gadgets, that wall also emitted a lot more radiation and EMFs. So we have to understand that in our bedroom as well, there can be a lot of EMFs from the type of, you know, the type of apparatuses that we have in there. So for example, what kind of alarm clock do you have? You know, as well as, are you bringing your laptop or your cell phones into your bedroom? These are things that are going to affect, you know, your energy, because it's going to cause a lot of stress on your body, which also will cause a lot of stress to your pineal gland, because then your pineal gland isn't going to be, you know, at that balance level for, you know, for good health and repair. Now we can see here the ear is at a good level, the eye. And again, I'm just going to go a little bit into the body language. The body language is about what you're hearing as well as how you're being heard. Similarly, what you're seeing and what you want to see versus what you're not seeing. Now, in this area, the nose is a little bit hyperactive, so it's going into high energy colors. And one of the things that I created is a medical chart, and I brought my charts here, but I'll have to show you later. Well, no, I can show you now. Hold on, where did they go? I've been creating a lot of charts that will help you, and one of the ones I've created is a medical chart that actually lists all the different conditions under the different colors. So for example, with gray, we can see that that can result in acute pain, as well as atrophy, block stagnant energy, chemotherapy, degeneration of cells. So I gave all kinds of possibilities of what these colors could mean on a medical level. So if you guys are interested in some of the support materials, I'll send you an email and just let you know a bit more about that. But when it comes to high frequency colors, then that could be an energetic congestion that is resultant of a viral infection. So in the nose, when we see high frequency colors, we can assume that maybe, you know, that person is having some problems with, you know, with viral. And we can also look at the ears, because a lot of times if the ears are plugged up, then that will also seep into the sinuses. So we're not seeing any disturbance here with the ear, but we're seeing it in the nose. And I show a lot of high energy in my nose. And when I blow clear, versus when the energy in the nose is lower, then that's going to be more of a bacterial infection. And so you'll see that people will blow more of that orange or green color. And this also goes with any organ, because if we look at the ear, and the ear is also at a low frequency, especially if it's showing yellows and oranges more so, that person could have a buildup of earwax. And I recently had a woman where she had orange in the ear, and I said to her, you might even have candida in the ear. And I had never said that to anyone before, but you know, this is where I rely on my intuition. And a lot of you guys who have bought the Biopulsar, your intuition is very strong and powerful. Trust the psychosomatic information that you get, because you know, again, when I got that hit that the woman had candida in her ear, she actually said to me, you know, I had never heard of candida in the ear, and my doctor diagnosed me with it. So here she actually had candida in her ear. So again, the colors are really important to assist us to understand more about the constitution of that organ. But quite simply, we can also look at the graph lines to indicate when it's high, it could be something highly aggressive versus when it's lower, it's a lower aggressive form. And I also look at it in the way, years ago, I was in Costa Rica, and my mother and I had taken a tour, and the tour guide was actually a doctor who was a reptilian doctor, and he was telling us that the snakes that actually come out at night are poisonous, where the snakes that you see during the day are non-poisonous or non-threatening. And I thought that was rather interesting because I correlated it to color, and for everything in my world is color, okay guys? So when I understood that, I kind of thought of, okay, the midnight colors of indigo, that's indicating those parasites or those viruses that are more deadly, versus when we see things in the orange color or yellow in nature are threatening, but not to the same level where they're as deadly. You know, candida, of course, can be quite, quite disturbing to the whole. However, through diet, we can clear that up fairly quickly. But when it comes to things that are highly aggressive, and this is, sort of what we're talking about when we're talking about COVID, or we're talking about Lyme's disease, these are highly aggressive situations. And of course, with COVID being also contagious, then again, we have to look at these possible factors of, what can be going on. Okay, I'm going to take a sip of water. Give me thumbs up if that sounds pretty cool or interesting, learning. Okay, so the mouth is also a little hyperactive. And again, if somebody's breathing a lot through their mouth, then they may be breathing in more toxins. And behind me here, I have our heavenly scent diffuser. This is something that everybody should have in their home and everybody should have in their office. They're incredible because they release negative ions that attach to airborne viruses and drop them out of your breathing atmosphere. So you're breathing good, clean air. But when we see that people are having disturbances in their mouth as well as their respiratory system, then they could be inhaling toxins. And a lot of offices are enclosed, or apartments, don't have a lot of windows. So sometimes we have to look at our sources of air, and are we getting enough air in, good, clean air. So we have to look at air purification systems. And I love the heavenly scent because I can add oils to it and then also distribute my antiviral oils, like the thyme. And if you guys haven't tried our medieval thyme product, it's awesome because it has a lot of the oils that are actually biblical oils that are known to be anti-infectious, antibacterial. Although we can't say that, of course, to the governments because, they're not necessarily on board with, our new concept thinking, or actually our natural thinking. Now, moving on to the thyroid, we can see here that the thyroid is hyperactive, and the thyroid has a lot to do with your body's temperature as well as your body's weight. So when people are trying to lose weight or gain weight, if their thyroid is imbalanced, it's a very difficult thing for people to do. And I always think about this one situation that had arisen. I was doing an event with a naturopathic doctor, and the naturopathic doctor had assessed this person as having a thyroid imbalance. And they were going, I don't have a problem with my thyroid. My doctor's checked it out and there's no problem. And because it was at an event, people were just going through and getting readings. So when her reading was over, she sort of came to the outskirts of the booth, and but her friend was next in line to get a reading, so she was waiting for her friend. So I went up to her, casually, and I said to her, I heard what Dr. John had said to you, and I have a couple questions to ask you for research. And I use this a lot. I say, can I ask you a question for research? And I do that specifically because when I put it in the form of research, for one, I'm engaging them to give me some insight, and two, they're understanding I don't know 100%, what the possibility is at that point. However, I can still do that even though I have a good point of reference. But in this case, she was actually quite underweight. She looked probably 20 pounds underweight. And I said to her, I'm noticing that you're very thin in stature. I said, do you have a problem gaining weight? She goes, all the time. I'm trying to gain weight. I eat a lot and I'm just unable to gain weight. And I said, okay. Also, this is connected to your body's temperature gauge, your thyroid. Do you have cold hands and cold feet? And she said, all the time. And I went, okay, so that's two things you're telling me, that you can't gain weight and that your hands and feet are always cold. You do have a thyroid issue. Now, one of the things, and if you guys have been doing your studies, I've written this down in the study manual, that you can even have people stamping their feet for 5 minutes and you will see that the thyroid will go normal. And this is some of the things that we have to understand, is that when we're not exercising ourselves, when we're not getting our heart rate excited, then the blood isn't circulating and we're not getting oxygen to our heart, and we're not moving the energy flow through our different endocrine, through our system, as well as, supporting our endocrine glands. So just by doing 5 minutes of exercise will balance your thyroid. And in fact, I tell everyone, go out and buy, those exercise balls that you can sit on and bounce on that ball. And I bought a ball of that size for my mother, and my mother's in her 80s, because she's not very, fit. However, I don't want her to get lethargic, so I tell her, bounce on your ball and that will stimulate your heart and just get everything pumping. And it's really good for circulation as well. Stamping feet, bouncing on balls, this will really just rev up your root chakra. And again, I challenge you guys to do these things, because if you don't do before and afters of yourself doing different things, then you're never going to grow as a practitioner. I test myself all the time. Every time I start a new protocol, I'm monitoring my energy. Whenever I do something that's out of the norm, I'm doing that before and after to see what it looks like. This is how I became really good at doing, biopulsar readings, was just, watching myself after I had pizza versus, what does my energy look like after I have a healthy salad, and pizza and beer do not go. Trust me, your energy goes down. Try these things. Cheese and wine are also a bad thing for your energy. But anyways, the whole point is that, you have to do as much as you possibly can to, to keep your energy healthy. And there's a lot of things we can recommend to people, to get on that healthy side. So just moving on here, the neck is the stress barometer, between how we communicate to the outside world. And you will notice a lot of people will have stress in their neck and their shoulder, but always look at the hip as well. And I'm zooming down here to the hip, because when the hip is weak, then that's going to throw your whole atlas off. And when your hips are off, then your neck and shoulder will also be off. So we have to understand that when you're in balance, then your neck and your shoulder will be in balance. But when your hips are off or your atlas is off, then things will start to go sideways. And again, there's a lot of information in regards to body language, because if we look at the right side of the body versus the left, it tells us what area is predominant. So when people stand on their right foot heavier, then I know that they're governed by their left brain and their analytical mind, versus if people stand with more emphasis on their left leg, then they're governed more by their right brain. And this can change. There's a few exercises that you can do to determine where you're at in any moment in time. And of course, your aura colors are also masculine and feminine in nature. So that will also indicate if you're more masculine or feminine in nature, but we're going to have to save that for another time. Now, I just want to go more towards the immune system, so I'm not going to be able to get through all organs. But if we focus on the thymus gland, which is right here, we can see that the thymus gland is weak. So when we see that the thymus gland is weak, that person's immunity system is not as strong as it could be. So because the thymus gland is your immune system regulator, then this is saying that this person doesn't have a strong capability of fighting. So if something, like COVID or any flu or any virus is around that person, they're going to be more likely to catch it than somebody who has a strong and healthy immune or a strong and healthy thymus gland. So again, we have to understand that it's our master organs that we're going to look at when we're looking at different conditions. And because of all this stress with COVID, we have to assure people of things that they can do to support themselves so they don't have to worry about, catching it. And I can tell you my thymus gland is strong and healthy, and I'm not worried about COVID because I feel energetically strong that I would be able to, ward off any symptoms. But that also goes back to, the fact I rarely ever get sick. Now I have body aches and pains. As we get older, that tends to happen a little bit more. But nonetheless, when it comes to colds and flus, that's not something that I readily catch. And I've been calculating, and I think in about 20 years, I've had 3 or 4 colds. And even then, they're short-lived. And I could tell you one time, I actually said, well, if I caught a cold right now, then people would take care of me rather than me taking care of everyone else. So I think I brought that on myself just with my thoughts. So we have to be very careful in regards to what we say. Which also brings me to another factor, because when we look at the aura map, and we're seeing here a lot of high frequency in the brain, this is someone that has the capabilities of thinking of all possibilities. In a way, it's what I call the what if energy. What if I do this? What if I do that? What happens if I get around somebody who's sick? Will I get sick? It's that person who's going to always be overthinking the possibilities of illnesses or what could be going wrong in their life. And similarly, when we see gray in the brain, then that's somebody who's not always, being optimistic about things. And so therefore as well, they may, wish themselves ill in a way, because again, when you don't have that strong brain capacity, then, you're going to just be more subjective to thinking things on a negative rather than a positive. So, it's very important that we keep our brain intact. Now, so when we look at the immunity, and one of the things that I sent out, which I'll resend everything because I want everyone to, get these handouts and understand my methodology of why I created these different tools. But what I did was I gave you some brochures or some handouts that you can utilize in your readings. One of them is the immunity chart and I'm just trying to find where I put it. Sorry. I had everything here, and then when I got the techie guy to come up, he started throwing things around on my desk a little, and I can't find it, but that's okay. So with this immune chart, yeah, that's one of them. Diego is holding up one of them, which actually goes into illustrating the different organs and glands that correspond to the thymus gland. Diego, do you have the other one to flip on screen there? Perfect. So that I broke down in sections. So what I did was I broke it down for the immune system. I broke it down for the respiratory system, because a lot of people who have been suffering from COVID, they're getting affected in their respiratory area. Plus, I also put other organs and glands that connect to the, to the lymph system, and then a few other organs and glands that connect to our overall health. So when we're looking at the thymus gland, we can also look at the other organs such as the spleen, just hang on one second here. Where are you, Diego? because you've got the handout in front of you, I'm going to unmute you here for a second, Diego. Can you read off the organs that are connected to the immune system? Oh, hold on. Why are you not unmuting? Okay.
Now it's on. Now
okay.
It's on. You
yeah.
are.
Yeah.
Are you
so,
listening?
Yeah, I am. So
Yeah.
Tell everyone what organs are connected to the immune system.
Immune system: thymus, kidney, spleen, urethra, and urethra.
Okay, so I'm just going to go to my little, I have a stamp here. I'm just going to stamp some things. So if we look at those organs again, the thymus gland,
Thymus,
the urethra, the kidney, the spleen, and what else?
the spleen and the urethra.
Yeah, got that.
No, the urethra. Yes.
Okay. So you'll notice that these organs are also connected to the water element organs. So that has a lot to do with your body being able to flush toxins out. So we can see here that the spleen is a little bit hyperactive on this person. Likewise with the kidney and the ureter. So this is saying that the body is working a little bit harder to flush out the toxins. The urethra is actually quite hypoactive. So we're seeing that at a lower level. So it's not able to flush out the toxins because it's a little bit on the weaker side. Okay. So now for the
lymph system.
Yeah,
no.
The lymph system, armpit,
mouth, jaw, neck, armpit, chest area, upper reproductive system, and upper legs.
Okay, I was trying to find a couple of the other ones. What am I missing here?
You're missing liver, I think.
Got that?
Lower abdomen. Liver.
Liver, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so when it comes to the lymph systems, we have to look at the areas where there's a lot of lymph glands. So in the neck area, there's a lot of lymph glands. In the belly area, even the upper legs, there's a lot of lymph glands in that area. So again, what we're doing, we're looking at the areas where there's a lot of lymph glands, and the armpits as well in this area. And in fact, when the armpit is congested, then it will seep toxins into the breast tissues, which is a starting point for breast cancer. And Diana, I don't know if you're on here, but Diana actually has a lot of success in regards to assessing people before the doctors could assess breast cancer, because she was always looking at the armpit in conjunction with, I think, the chest area, and to see whether there was any blockages in there. And I did have a client one time, her armpit was a very dark and dirty color, and she indicated to me that she was a breast cancer survivor. And it looked like there was still some of the toxicities that were, in that area, but she was constantly working at skin brushing and other things to support that. Okay. So then the next one, hang on, I've got to find my erase button here again.
Respiratory system?
Yes.
Beyond the respiratory system, heart?
Yeah.
Heart, esophagus, lungs?
Yeah.
Abdomen? In nose?
Yeah. So, and the mouth, was the mouth on there?
No.
Okay, it should have been on there too, so I'll have to modify that. So when it comes to the respiratory system, the intake of air that comes through our mouth and our nose and goes down our esophagus into our lungs and our heart, and how we breathe in the belly, that has a lot to do with our respiratory system. So likewise, you can see that, there's a lot of excesses, just slight excesses in those areas, other than the belly here. that's at a lower level. But again, we can see that some of the organs are working harder to achieve a good breath. And this is why, you know, again, good clean air, having, you know, those diffusers, the heavenly sent diffusers or air purifiers, you know, getting out in the, you know, in nature and actually having good oxygen intake. Okay. And then at the final there, the next one that we're looking at is the adrenals, if I'm not mistaken, as
Yes.
well as the spine.
Yes.
And the reason why I listed those is the spine has a lot to do with our chi and our vitality. Also, it's the health of our blood. I've learned this, that it's the health of our blood. So when our blood is dirty, you will see the spine low. When the chi is weak, you will see the spine low. When you see that there's what did I say? Toxicity. Oh, and the cerebral fluid is weak, you'll see the spine low. And this is the energy that comes up our spine and feeds the back of our head. And, you know, again, I look at these things, especially when it comes to people that, you know, are prime candidates for stroke. Take a look at the back of the head and the cerebellum. If that's blocked, if there's toxicity there, that's a prime candidate for a stroke. Similarly, when people have problems with the heart, the lungs, the esophagus, etc., they're a prime candidate for a heart attack. So whenever I see that the heart is at a low frequency, then that is a prime candidate for a heart attack. And we did some research where we had probably about 10 patients that had triple bypass surgeries, and all 10 of them, their heart was at a low level. Their heart chakra was, with all of them, between 3 and 17. Every single one of them. So again, we can prevent things from happening. And in these cases, when we see a lot of gray, what we want to work on is we want to work on the absorption of cell salts. I'm also doing some research right now with vitamin C, and I'm actually doing mega doses of vitamin C, because another thing that I've been learning is that when you're under a lot of stress, your body depletes its source of vitamin C. And if you don't have vitamin C, then you're not getting your iron consumption. And this is why a lot of people who might be, you know, eating a lot of, a lot of foods that have iron, but they're still anemic. Okay, so we've got to look at these things, because we know to get the absorption of iron in, we have to have a good intake to get the iron in, we have to have a good take of vitamin C. But people who struggle with that, then that's a bit of an issue. And when people are anemic, just so you know, I recommend that if they get sick from taking iron, then I tell them to take iron before they go to bed, so they sleep it off. Because when people get nauseous when they take iron, and a lot of people do, then we have to think of things that people can do that are going to, you know, prevent that. And so I've learned that if you take iron before you go to bed, then you can sleep through those feelings of nauseousness. So it's a good way to get people taking iron, who have a hard time taking iron. The adrenal glands are also important, because the adrenals are our fight and fight flight energy. So when our adrenals are weak, we don't have the power to fight, but when our adrenals are strong, we have that capability. So I also look at that, because that tells me whether or not people have enough power. And we can see with this individual that the adrenals are a little bit excited, which again is indicating that they're working a little bit overtime. And, you know, again, if people aren't doing the basic essentials of life, then, you know, they're going to be in that weakened state in several organs. And it's quite normal to have, you know, organs that are a little bit off, but we look at other things when we're looking at, you know, the aura picture and, you know, the graphs or the numerical values. Now, because I have the graphs up, I want to show you just a few other things that I look at. So for example, you'll notice the rectum, the graph line is slightly falling, the pelvis, it's slightly falling, the bladder, it's slightly falling, the lower reproductive organ, it's slightly falling, the feet are slightly falling, the thyroid was even falling a little bit. But when you see graph lines falling, and sometimes that line falling is going to be more dramatic, that's indicating that that organ has sort of an allergy reaction to things. Okay, so those graphs are telling that as well. We can see that the graph lines are a little bit jittery. Sometimes you will see it more dramatic where the graph lines are going to be really, really, amplified and short. That's indicating that there's a lot of stress in that organ. And there will be some cases where the graph lines will be going literally from the bottom of the box to the top of the box. That's indicating big stresses. You don't always see it as clearly just with the aura picture. And, sometimes there's, some softwares shine in what they do and other softwares shine in what they do. So it's hard to compare the different softwares, but ultimately you want to grow your Biopulsar system to have, the main operating softwares because, again, then you have more evidence and validation of things. So because I'm seeing some jitteriness, this is telling me that this person is a little bit more emotional in nature, as well as more sensitive. And a lot of people who are empaths are like that. So when we see a lot of these purple hues, oops, I'm spreading hearts all over the place. How do I stop it? Hang on. Okay, I got to close that window, otherwise it keeps going. But when I'm looking at the aura map, the more indigo hues that I see in there are indicating somebody who's very empathetic in nature. So the more indigo that there is in the aura, then the more that person is empathetic in nature. And people who are empathetic tend to take on a lot, meaning they'll take on symptoms of, the person. If a person is happy, they'll feel happy. If the person is sad, they'll feel sad. And in fact, you're an empath and it's affecting you when your energy falls short during the day. And so you might have those energy deficiencies where all of a sudden mid-afternoon your eyes are rolling because you're really tired, or you're crashing and burning because you're so exhausted. It's just that your body is so depleted of energy, it needs to get the energy back in it as fast as possible. Does that make sense? Okay, good. So we're already at 4 o'clock. I mean, I could talk forever. I think you guys, know me for having verbal diarrhea. I can talk and teach you so much. So I'm just going to kind of conclude a little bit here because I've covered a lot of different things. I segued into a few other topics that I felt were really important. But I hope you understand that with what's going on, I want to give people reassurance with COVID, because I think if people have a peace of mind that their immune system is, not as bad as maybe they thought, then, that's just normal, that, we all have, immune system, but what can we do to build it to be stronger? Now, in the color of the language, turquoise is the color of immunity. So using the Chromalive turquoise light, or introducing more turquoise foods into one life. And if you think of some of the turquoise foods in nature, a lot of them come from the oceans, like spirulina is a superfood, and think of, some of your other greens like kale. It's such a dark, a dark hue, and that's getting towards that, that dark green turquoisey kind of, component. As well as if you look at a lot of your immune oils, like thyme, like tea tree oil, is also turquoise. And just so you guys know, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but tea tree oil was discovered as an anti-venom to the poisonous snake bite of snakes in Australia. And I thought that was rather interesting. I've got a couple Aussies on here. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to unmute you guys now. So that way, if there's any talk, Bev, have you ever heard that tea tree oil is an anti-venom for a snake? No? Okay, and I haven't.
It's good for fungus of the toes.
Yes.
The toenails.
Yes.
You can put it on there and it gets rid of it better than anything else.
That's right. So again, what we're talking about is that turquoise energy is really good to, kill that, those more highly aggressive, fungi in nature. And as well, thyme is, one of the all-encompassing oils for any kind of immune disorders. Make sure you cut the thyme, because thyme is quite harsh on the skin, because it does have components in there that are quite strong. Okay, and okay, what else can I tell you? Well, why don't we open it up for a question and answer period? Does anybody have any questions?
Sure. Say something. So I have a question. When you're looking, can you hear me?
I sure can. I'm waving to you guys.
Okay, sorry.
Because as you asked me a question, you popped to the top of my screen so I can actually see you.
Oh, sweet. So speaking about the aura display, when you're looking at the top of the head and all that, I was just trying to distinguish, because to me, maybe it's just my eye, it's a light shade of gray, but is that considered white?
This is white. And
Okay.
the reflection underneath isn't doing it justice. However,
Okay.
if you look at the colors that are actually above the head, they are white in nature. Now, yeah, I'm not seeing anything
Because the
gray.
gray in the background is darker.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure, okay, is that an indicator of gray or white?
Now, here's something for you. When in doubt, just look. So this is all the brain parameters right there, and
Okay.
all of them are high in number value. They're all 6 and higher. So
Okay.
you there right there you would know that there is no gray.
Okay, I see. Because the gray is a 0 to 1.10.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
I'm learning.
Yeah.
And I have a question. Oh,
Sure.
sorry.
Okay,
I just
go
want to
ahead.
know if you were recording this.
I surely hope so.
So do we. So much great information, and I'm like, are you? She's
showing
right.
recording.
Yeah, I set it to record before I started, so we should be good to go. And yes, I will be sharing this. And what my
Awesome.
goal is to actually start doing more videos. And I actually had a couple polls here, and because I'm not seeing you guys, I'm going to launch this poll. Can you? Hopefully you get this. I've got 2 polls here that I created. Oops, that's not it.
Awesome. Okay.
Hang on.
But that'll be great.
Okay. Yeah, relaunch poll. Oh, continue. So anyways, I have 2 polls I want you guys to complete. One of them will be, when's a good time to do this? I kind of figured 3 p.m. my time, because then I can get you guys on the East Coast at 6 p.m., right? And I can also work with a lot of people internationally. I think Europe is a little tougher because, Diego, I think you're at after midnight now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
But no problem.
yeah, so I was trying to accommodate everyone. Yeah, so if you like, around this time, then I'll continue scheduling them. And what I want to do is I just want to keep going into the different components. I want to go into, understanding or helping you guys understand more about the aura picture, helping you understand more about the graphs. I did a little bit of everything today because I just wanted to get a feel for things and find out a little bit more about what your interests are. Okay, so it looks like you guys found this helpful, so that's a good thing. And in the next Zoom meeting, reading the aura came out as number 1. Okay. Oh,
Good.
pardon me. No, aura diagnostics. Okay, then we'll focus on that, and then we'll follow that by reading the aura and then the chakras. Now, I tend to kind of go back and forth, and unfortunately, I didn't know how to define the other category, so you guys can chat me, because the chats will be recorded, even though I'm not seeing it on screen right now. But whatever it is that you guys want, then, again, just let me know sort of how you want me to develop these theories. Now, how often would you guys like to see it? I didn't put that on the poll, but how often would be a good thing for you guys to see?
Every day.
Every day.
I was going to say, we could benefit from your knowledge on a daily basis.
For the next 5 months.
I know. I wish I was Spock, like Star Trek. That
Right.
I have to do the the mind meld. And yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
2 weeks for the next few months. That'd be great.
Okay. Well, I definitely could do once a week. I'm still doing some writing. I'm working on our Biopulsar Academy of Learning as well. So there's a lot of handouts that will be coming, and I'm starting to share some of them in the emails. And you guys probably have noticed that I've sent out more emails lately, except for the ones that didn't get on my email list. So I've sent you an email that you have to sign on. And if any of you aren't getting my email after this meeting, let me know, because I will send out an email in the next 24 hours. If you don't get that email, let me know, because you know, one of the things that we have to do is oh, sorry, I was helping someone out there. But I want to just sort of start packaging everything and creating it in templates. So you might notice I've got like a chakra template where I've sent things that are related to the chakra. I'm creating an aura template, an organ template. So there'll be handouts that will be good for your clients as well as for you guys, you know. And I have to be very appreciative of sort of the last couple of years. I've done a lot of readings. I've totally backed off of everything now because I want to give more back to you guys. But it's almost like I had to do hundreds and hundreds of readings these last few years to go to the next level with you guys. And that's why, you know, again, you know, I just wanted to, you know, start doing what I'm doing and getting a feel for it. And even though we've had some stumbling blocks, like I said, I can't see your chats, at least I got the friggin' Biopulsar program in the background for you guys to see. So I'm happy about that. Okay. Yes,
Suzanne,
Anna, yeah.
there's a lot of people who were having trouble getting on. Maria was trying to get on from where she was at, and she was having a hard time. I too, when I first tried to get on,
Yeah.
it was kicking me out. Then I finally just shoved myself.
Yeah.
But
and
I'm trying to share this through another format with her so that she can see it. But she'll be looking forward to the next one, believe me.
Well, yeah, and because I got the video, I think that's something that I'm going to be sharing with everyone anyways. And I know a few people were trying to log on, and I you know, sometimes where I got sidetracked, and I'll change the feature for next time where people will automatically be allowed in. I said it because there was a few people trying to get in that I was blocking. And it was people I didn't know, and this is just privy for Biopulsar owners. This is not for anyone else, you know. And so I'm not opening this up to the public. This is for you guys. I might take excerpts out of the actual video, but this is for you guys. I'm here for you, not for, you know, people that just, you know, because sometimes there's bombers, right? They just bomb on seminars. So I was trying to prevent that, but I think in the future I'll just have you guys come right in, and so that way hopefully you don't get blocked in any way. But I was inviting, or I was admitting everyone as they were coming on. So but sometimes it could be the speed of internet and other things. And you know, again, just going back to Zoom, I know they're doing whatever they can to ensure that most people can get on, but you know, sometimes there might be difficulties. Okay, but we'll work towards that. Yeah.
I have a
Can I ask
suggestion.
a question about the aura thing? How can you tell if a person is like a total blue person or a yellow person or a red person in the graph? Because I know with my other system I was able to do that, but with this I was having a hard time. How can I tell what actual color they are?
Yeah. So again, if you start to study the graph lines in the position, then that will help you.
I don't have that format.
Okay, so that's a separate software. So when I'm looking at the aura map, the more there is of one color in the aura, the more it dictates that they have characteristics of that color. And that's all in your training manuals. There's a lot of pages that I put together on just one, on each color individually. So this person, I wouldn't define them as any color in particular. However, what I would define in this aura picture is there's a lot of spiritual energy. Okay, so that's what you have to look at, Anna, and everybody. You have to look at what is indicating, you know, what about a person, and you have to memorize a couple of key things. You have to memorize, for example, the combination of colors. The emotional colors are orange, green, and indigo. Those are right-brained energies. So the more orange, green, and indigo that I see in the aura map, then the more that person is emotional in nature. Now, if I also have the graphs, I'm looking at the stability of the graphs as well, because the stability of the graphs also tells me if they're more emotional in nature. Okay. When you have somebody who's very left brain, you're going to see a lot of yellow, blue, and red in their aura. But because red is something we don't see very often in the aura, other than often it's more shown in a negativity, I relate it more to the health of the organs than I do in regards to the personality. You will see people that have red in the brain, but it's not a lot of people that have red in the brain. You know, and I remember going to Denver, and it was so cute because I was walking across the street and there was a bunch of construction workers and they were giving me the wolf whistle. And
Oh boy.
and I was thinking to myself, oh my God, they have a lot of good red. You know, because it's a very sexual energy, and in North America more so. You know, we don't use that energy, and Hanneman, you're going to have to tell me if you see a lot of red in the aura when you're doing consultations, because Hanneman works a little bit in regards to the energy of sexuality and sensuality. So maybe he can give us.
I do get a little bit of, I recently got a bit of an orange, which was interesting.
Very
Especially
good. Yeah.
on the outside, and the body as well. It was quite interesting. It was actually after some shibari.
Say again, sorry.
I usually do it before and after I do some shibari or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the readings because I'm really cautious of saying the negative things when you because it's really hard to tell. Like, it's really easy to see something and say, oh, you got a lot of blue, but to be able to say, oh, you've got a sickness or something or a block, that's something I'd like you, if you could focus on a little bit more, that would be really helpful. Yeah.
And in the manual, it goes over a lot of the characteristics, but I know it's getting the flow of doing the reading. That's the sort of, you got to get into that, you know, and that takes a little bit of practice, but the more readings you do, the easier it will get. But even when, you know, and I just, because it's on the top of my mind here, when you see a lot of orange in the aura, especially in the brain, then those are playful people. So when it comes to sex, they're going to be a lot more playful in the bedroom. So for anybody who wants to get a little bit more playful in the bedroom, just bring some orange into the bedroom and you'll see your aura change to more orange. Trust me.
Orange is one of my favorite colors.
I know. And it's a very creative color. So it's not just about, you know, the sensuality of the color, but you know, yeah, it's a very creative energy. Oh, look at that. Now, Pauline had a question. She kind of raised her hand, and so if you don't mind, Pauline, are you there still?
I am. What I've been doing since the warm weather's been on is I've been walking. We live in a beautiful park at the back of our home, and I walk for about 20 to 30 minutes with no shoes on.
Nice.
And then after I go onto the Biopulsar, and oh my God, what a difference.
A lot more green, I take it.
A lot of green and just a lot of calm, a lot of yellow and a lot of orange.
Yeah.
Come in. And I noticed there was not much grey because I've been drinking a lot of water too, but I noticed a big shift in just doing that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah, that's powerful.
After I make a foot bath with the tea tree oil, and I make sure my feet are very clean. So,
well, and I tell people, if you actually put like a couple cups of water into a foot soak, you're actually creating a very concentrated formula to help pull the toxins through the feet, and the kidney actually expresses itself through the feet. So that's very powerful, and to combine it with oils like the thyme and the tea tree would also enhance it. And I'm very much into the Andes salts right now. We're doing a lot of research, and we're actually importing the Andes salt because the cellular aspect of it is more absorbable with the body. And there's a lot of controversy right now with a lot of salts that are coming from the oceans, because now they're proving all ocean water has plastic in it. So you know, we have to understand that the salts that we're now getting from the oceans might not be as clean as possible, where from the Andes they're derived from flatbeds of salts that are in the mountains, so they're untainted.
How about radioactive waste in the water?
Right.
Pardon?
Radioactive waste because of the Fukushima and
Yep.
everything else, and it's
Yep.
going on all the currents, how,
Yep.
how that affects us is.
That's right, Anna. And this is why we have to understand, and right now I'm doing a lot of research with distilled water, and my brother, I'm bringing his name into this again, he bought himself, he's bought a distiller, and now my sister and I are on board, we bought our own, but he actually showed me that the different waters, and you actually can see the lead at the bottom. So it's pretty amazing that, and this is another reason why a lot of times the cerebellum is weak, because this becomes a dumping ground for a lot of the heavy metals. Okay. And yes, I want to get into the aura reading. I love reading the aura because the way I look at it is the physical is the manifestation of what we've negated on the emotional, mental, and spiritual level. So the physical is the last point that we get hit. But because when I see things in the number value below 1, and I see that, that there's gray in the aura, that's what I'm going to fix first. And, we have to look at the things that we can do to fix that. So I'm going to send you guys my article on salt therapy. And I think I've recently modified it to include the Andes salts in there. But I read this book from Germany, and it's very heavy duty reading. Oh my God, I had to read it like 3 times. But my point is they've done a lot of research with salt, and because of all the electromagnetic smog that's constantly attacking our aura literally is always having to fend off all these EMFs. And Diego, because you're from Spain, there's a doctor in Spain that has come out with research that all the areas where COVID is at the highest are areas that G5 has been introduced first. Right?
Yep.
So,
Oh, that was close.
It's better than in Spain. In Portugal, it went
oh,
better
sorry.
than
Yeah, sorry.
in-
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, but they are very afraid here in Portugal. There are a lot of people not wanting the 5G system.
Yeah.
Because of that.
We don't want it.
We don't want it.
Yeah.
Nobody.
So because we're constantly being bombarded, then we have to understand that we have to ensure we don't have a lot of gray in our aura. So we have to think of ways to replenish ourselves. This is why these salt protocols, because also wherever there's a weakness in the body, that becomes a dumping ground for the toxins. So, when you have stress in an area where there's constant pain or dysfunction in that area, by making a salt pack out of a salt brine and wrapping it around that area will actually then bombard that area with the micro minerals that are loaded in that salt. And this is really important because we can do this with a variety of things. You can like dip a silk scarf or a cotton scarf, and you can wrap it around your throat or your leg, or if somebody is having respiratory issues, soak a whole cloth in the salt water and wring it out, put the t-shirt on, layer it with a couple dry t-shirts, and sleep with it on all night. Okay, if you can do the salt therapy for 8 hours, that is a winning situation. Most people are doing salt therapy more like maintenance, so it's not having the full effect.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
Hey, Suzanne, can I ask another question? Oh, sorry.
You can also put 7 stones from color energy in your water. Mine have 10 years more or less. But
Wow.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's true. I mean, I actually have a bunch of shungite in my drinking water.
I was going to ask you how you feel about shungite. Okay.
Yeah, it's in all my water receptacles, and I'm wearing my shungite bracelet as well. I wear a lot of shungite because, I'm in front of the computer all day, and I believe that, these are the things that are naturally affecting us, and we have to do whatever we can to support ourselves. And I'll share one thing, and then we're going to have to move on to the next thing because I have promised Beverly and also Stacy that I was going to show the ChromaLife software today. So I want to show that. But what was I going to say now? Oh, my mind is racing a million
That's
ways.
like me. 10 seconds.
So much.
Tom.
Can I ask you a quick question regarding that energy thing? Because now that they're increasing us to 5G,
Yeah.
on how we could all protect ourselves EMF-wise regarding that, will that be something that you'll cover with us in one of our classes and stuff?
Well, I can, and that's why if you guys send me an email or chat me what it is you want me to focus on, I'll focus on that. If we're going to continue doing this, I have no problem talking about different topics. So the higher up a topic will be the first topic that I'll cover, because like I said, looking at the feedback, the organ graph analysis came out very strong. So I'll focus on that, and I'll focus on the aura reading as well. But I know what I was going to say now. I've been doing aura analysis for 20 years, and I've been researching from 20 years ago. I have a lot of scans, and in fact, I've now started correlating all my binders. I have, I think, 8 binders this thick of data. Okay, and so I'm correlating a lot of data right now. And Frank, who I'm hoping is on this call too. Frank, are you there? Okay, I saw he was trying to get in. Oh, yeah, there you are, Frank. I know you're here. So I'm unmuting everybody. So Frank, he's doing a lot of research, and I'm going to be providing him with stuff. And you'll be hearing more about Frank and what he's doing, because he's a rocket scientist. He's figuring out ways that we can do a lot more research. So I'm working with Frank. We're doing some CBD research, and I know Frank is set up in a health clinic in California, also doing research. So my goal is to actually start publishing papers, whether we go to that level of publishing in journals, or if it's just going to be self-publishing for you guys. I want to be correlating this data, because I'm looking at my research, and I've got probably 50 to 100 people who have been diagnosed with chronic fatigue. I have probably 100 people that have are migraine sufferers. So there's all kinds of data that I want to accumulate. So I can tell you I'm working on it, but it's a work in progress, because now I have the data. I've isolated the different symptoms, and now what we'll be doing is putting it all on a table. But what I wanted to tell you guys is, because I've been doing this for 20 years ago, I did not see the amount of gray in the average aura as I do today. And this is telling you how we're being affected, because there's 2 things that have changed in the last 20 years. Yeah. So the 2 things that have changed in the last 20 years is the amount of computer abuse, because 20 years ago, nobody had a cell phone. Okay. Now everybody under the garden has the cell phone, right? Also, 20 years ago, our soils were not so depleted of the microminerals. So we have to look at, these are the 2 biggest things that are being a catalyst to dehydration. So this is why I'm on track with trying to, find as many ways as possible, that we can reestablish that hydration. And I know you guys are sharing a lot with me in regard to what you're doing. But one of the things, hang on here. One of the things that I need is the substantiated fact, meaning you have to provide me with, a test group of 30 people who have been taking your protocols for me to take a look at it. Because if we cannot see the results consecutively with people, and I'm really pushing to get our trisalts back. That was one of the few items that I ever saw that got the absorption of water into the cells. So I'm really working on getting that back. So hopefully we'll see that soon, but I'll let you guys know more about that. So I've muted you all, so you can't ask me any more questions. And I've done that because I want to just sort of go into showing you the ChromaLive software, and then I'll open it up after, and we can continue a little bit of a dialogue here. Okay. And so I've already put, oh no, because we had the technical problem, I have to go back. This is called the module manager. When I click on there, oh, hang on, is it here? Oh, I have to close this window first. So when I click on the module manager, this allows me to change to any software that I have. So I'm going to switch it to the ChromaLife software just so you can see me do this in real life. And as soon as I hit activate, it takes a few seconds for it to convert into the software. So you saw the screen did a little blink there. So that means it's just downloading the software. And as soon as that wheel stops spinning, then the ChromaLife software will be activated.